I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with our first required course being offered online. Social work education, I teach in the graduate program, so at the MSW level, and all social work education is overseen by the Council on Social Work Education, CSWE, and we operate under what we call the EPAS, and they are really focused on competency and building skills for social workers. So part of that is not just teaching social workers how to be social workers and the skills that they need to go out and serve families and communities, but part of our job as instructors and professors is to model social work skills. So we model engagement, we model community building, we model group work. When we teach about group work, we have our students get into groups. And because of that, there's a big emphasis in social work education on this kind of idea of community. We don't often have the large lectures that have been described here today, where it's the professor in front and there's 250 students. We usually have at most 40 graduate students, and we tend to do things like make them sit in a circle, which they resist sometimes because they want to be in the back of the class on their computers. But because of this emphasis on building community, there is some skepticism about online education in the social work education community. I just was able to look up on my smartphone while I was sitting here. The Council on Social Work Education did a survey of the 750 or so accredited social work programs, and they were able to find 30 that have either a fully online or partially online social work master's program. There are many more social work programs that have been beginning to offer, one or two required or elective classes online. Rutgers, USC, and Fordham are kind of leading the way. USC has an amazing interactive technology suite that they're using to offer a fully online MSW program that people can enroll in across the country and do their field placements where they are. There's a lot of talk around among social work educators that USC is poaching faculty from across the country, so that people are kind of nervous. So there's kind of this like skepticism and this nervousness that we don't really understand what this is, and is this somehow devaluing what we do as social work educators, putting these pieces online. So at the School of Social Welfare over at the HSC, we really haven't had any experience with online courses. Last year, there was a social work supervision course, which was an elective, and because the professor was injured halfway through the semester, at the beginning of the semester, she completed the course online. So it kind of became our first hybrid course, but it was really to meet the needs of the school and the faculty member more so than it was something that we set out to do. It was an elective, there wasn't a lot of students in it, it was pretty small. So the psychopathology and psychopharm course is a course that I teach, that I've been teaching for 3 years. And with the talent grant, I was able to develop this course and convince the school to allow me to offer it last fall. And it's actually, we're going to offer it again this coming fall. It's fully online, it's taught by myself, a full-time faculty member, and it's a required course. So this is a course that everybody in the curriculum has to take. And last year and this year, the demand for this course is way over capacity. We tried to limit the course to 18 students. We ended up taking, I think, 23. And we're having the same thing. I had a student this week say that she got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be the first one on her computer. The students are asking for this. They need it. And my next slide will say a little bit more why they need it, but they want it. They know the technology, and I should say this course is offered fully in Blackboard, so it doesn't even have a lot of the kind of more interesting interactive components that we've heard about today. But they want this, and they feel like they need it to meet the demands of their schedule. So this is part of why I say they need it. So our students commute to Stony Brook. They do not, for the most part, live in the dorms. I think this may be a Stony Brook dorm student, possibly. This is me over here in Port Jeff. And these are where all the students in my fall section live. using their home zip codes, which they reported. So you figure anybody from here west, this is a 2-hour drive to Stony Brook when you take into consideration traffic and parking. Out east, you're talking about an hour drive. So for those students, those 3 students, you know, Stony Brook is convenient, but for the majority of these, we have over here in Lower Manhattan, Riverdale, out in Brooklyn and Queens. So this is part of why I say they feel like they need it. We offer a couple classes in Manhattan, but their home base is here at Stony Brook, and a lot of them work full-time, they have families, they have other obligations. To complete the MSW program, you need to be in full-time field work 2 or 3 days a week. They have a lot on their plate. So this is really offering them and increasing the diversity of our student body. So instead of just having the students that are just from Long Island, we've got to get a lot more city students in these sections, and we could increase the diversity of the school. So kind of what held the whole class together is the discussion forums. These are just some of my requirements of the class that they had to post on 3 different days. We played around with that a lot. I was able to, so the discussion forums are kind of the community and the glue that held the class together. There's required reading, which I just want to point out that this is the first class where I knew my students were doing the reading. Not a week went by where I didn't know that they cracked, every single one of them opened that textbook. Why? Because they had to answer the questions in the discussion forum and to participate in the class. They could not just show up like they might in our traditional classrooms not having done the reading. They had read the book, and if they didn't read the book, it was very clear because they weren't able to participate. So the community, it was part of it. Case examples from their experiences were shared in the discussion forum, and then the sharing of expertise, whether that was my expertise or their expertise from their own experience in the field. The interactive content was a big piece. In my classes, I try to use YouTube videos, I try to use films, I use a lot of PBS or Frontline documentaries because they do a lot of documentaries on substance abuse, mental health issues. In the online forum, I was really able to say, assign a 2-hour movie for them to watch and digest, as opposed to in the classroom, you show a 2-hour movie, half of them are asleep, they're tuned out. When you get to the discussion part, everybody's just ready to leave the classroom. So I was actually, one of the films that I used was from PBS, and it was actually a 6-hour miniseries. So I was able to assign it over the course of 2 weeks, and they answered questions and they interacted about the health and mental health and community issues in this particular film. Because the course was kind of responsive to what was going on, it was easier to integrate current events into the course. So if something was going on in the news, we were talking about it immediately when it happened, not trying to remember to maybe bring it up and integrate it the next week. I think I said the reading, they had to do in-depth discussion and feedback on the readings, and then they had their quizzes. So this is just kind of a little comparison. I taught my traditional class and my online class at the same time in the fall semester so that I would be able to compare them. I use a little multimedia on my regular class, but not as much, maybe 5 or 10 minutes a week. Whereas on the online class, it was 2 to 3 hours that they were engaging with material and talking about it and writing about it. Instead of course lectures, I didn't do any recorded course lectures. That was actually from encouragement from the folks at TLT. I said, oh, I'm going to do this online class. I'm going to record all my lectures. And they really opened my mind to realize I didn't have to do that. I could ask, instead of telling the students information, I could ask them to tell me the information and assess their learning that way. So that was really kind of like a paradigm shift for me in a way, because I had gone into this project thinking that I would deliver it in the same way, and I was able to do it much differently. They had some of the same exams. For example, I made their final exam, which I call quizzes too. We have 3 quizzes instead of exams. I made their final exam exactly the same, and my online students took it online. And my traditional students, I told them that they could go on Blackboard and take it online, or they could come and take it pen and paper. About half chose to take it online, and half came into the class that week. In terms of office hours, with my students in the classroom, they would either try to catch me after class, which is not always great because I'm running out the door just like they are. But with the online class, I was always able to get back to them within 24 hours. During the fall semester, I got married. I went on a honeymoon. Everything that goes, planning a wedding, I got married at the end of November. I felt a little disconnected from my other class. This class, I was able to stay on top of them because I could do this work when I could do it. I was able to know that I could check in with them every day and say, I have these things going on in my life. I'm going to be away for these days. But I could check in before and after, so I never was gone. My traditional class, I had to have somebody else come and cover me 1 week while I was out of town. This class, I didn't need coverage because I could still be there even though I wasn't physically in the same place as them. So it offered some flexibility for me as well as my students, and that was one of the most positive things that they had to say. So since I did these courses at the same time, I had a little bit of data so I could compare their final paper grade. It was the same assignment, their final quiz grade, same assignment, and their final course grade. And as you can see, on average, it was pretty much a wash. They did just as well. These are the questions that Stony Brook sends out for the course evaluation. This is what grade would you give, asking the students what grade would you give the course. Same, average, B+. How effective was the professor in teaching the subject? Around the same. This is on a 5-point scale. And were there reasonable expectations of you for this course? So you can see here for the online, the average is a little lower. And I think many students came into it not realizing the time commitment that they were going to have to make. They didn't know, they kind of thought this was going to be an easy way to take this class. They didn't realize they'd have to log in and answer questions and do the same amount of work as they would have to do in a regular class. So that's reflected here, and that was some of the negative feedback, way too much work. Some of the negative comments. For the traditional, they thought that we moved too quickly through the topics. So psychopathology covers the entire DSM, like all major mental disorders, in 1 semester. So I get this every semester that they say, we moved too quickly, I didn't feel like I got anything in depth. But the online class, actually one of their positive comments was that they felt like they really got a good idea of the disorders and they learned about them in depth. So it was interesting that they felt like they got the depth. Whereas the traditional class tells me that every semester. One of the negative comments from the online class was that the class was too large, and this is only with 23 students. They felt like it was too much to keep up. They were posting, they would sometimes be 400 posts per week from this class of 23, and they felt like it was too time consuming. Interesting, the comments about engagement were in the regular class, they said the teacher was engaging, I felt like I got to know her and learn from her and I liked her style. They were comments like that. Nobody in the online class said anything about me. What they said is I got to know my fellow students so well. Some of these people I've known for a couple of, this is their last year. Some of these people I've known for a year and a half, and now I really feel like I know them. So they formed that community with each other, and nobody said like, oh, I really got to know my professor, she's so engaging. No, they said that in the class where I was face to face, but in the online, they got to know each other and really form that bond. So I think that's my last slide. But so just to kind of wrap up, community, and engagement really can be established in an online class. And if that's the biggest fear for social work, we need to move beyond that and see how we can use some of these technologies. Everything we talked about today is way beyond anything I did, but would really increase that engagement and that community building in the classroom.
It's very good and it's very true.
And I have my email here because thank you. My email is anna.hayward, but I'm actually in the system as Rachel, so I just have it here in case you have any questions. I'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
We'll bring you up and
Thank you.
So true. Thank you. Great.